Because, when people say, well, music's for everyone, I'm like, is it everyone?
Just like you can't be friends with everyone, Some people are going to like your music and some people are going to feel neutral about it. Some people aren't going to like it, and that's just how it's going to be.
I find that people that leave comments, there's never a picture of them. And
it's
then
like
it's
anonymous
something. Yeah, it's anonymous, or it's like, Mr. Jingle Jangle 27. It's never like a real name. Start right off the gate. CB, why should we care about artist identity? Why should we care at all? Does it matter? Does it matter? Or is this, have things changed?
I think it depends on your goals. If your goal is to have a career, or not even have a career, if your goal is to put out your own music and for people to connect with you specifically, I think that artist identity is really important.
It's interesting that you said too, even if it's, it's a career, or even if you just want people to connect with you, and that means just releasing your own music and you just want to play like the venue down the street, that still matters.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I think the career thing is a whole different thing, like you can be an artist, you can put out music, and then you can also decide that you want it to be a source of your income, but those are two different things.
So can you explain, what does artist identity mean? To me, sometimes I think we can dilute it to like people rush and be like, I'll make something on Canva. I made a quick little website. I took some pictures. Here's my bio. I started playing, piano at this age. And it has to be more than that, or I feel like it's more than that.
Yeah. Well, it's how people are going to receive you, how your audience is going to receive you, right off the bat. Because usually artist identity, I mean, it's in the songs. It's very important.
Yeah.
Like, the context of the songs, whether or not, like, what genre you're trying to do, that's part of artist identity. But also the visuals that you're giving people, the posts that you're making on social media, the things that you're wearing, the things that you choose to put in your bio, because we've all lived, years and years of life. There's so much that we could say about who we are. And the choices that you make about all of those things are going to dictate how people are wanting to interact with you, what they're thinking of you. And if they see your visual stuff first or your bio first, that's informing the music that they're listening to.
There are a ton of things I feel that you just mentioned right there. And so let's start about the songwriting aspect. Like for you personally too, because you just released an EP. How is your artist identity in the songs, and how does that come about when thinking about writing, co-writing, creating? How do you know that enough of yourself is in the song?
I actually thought a lot about this when I was picking these songs. I've been writing a ton in the last couple of years, at least a song a week, which has been great. And so I've ended up with a ton of songs, and some of them felt right and some of them didn't. And I spent a lot of time evaluating that because like my mom, I used to send her all of the songs and she'd be like, I love this one. And I'd be like, but it's not put right,
Yeah.
And I didn't think they were bad songs, it just was like something didn't feel right. And I think I sat with it for a while, and intimacy is really important to me. Like, not necessarily like physical intimacy, but just like vulnerability and authenticity between two people. Whether that's in the song or whether that's like me as the songwriter being vulnerable with the person that I'm singing this song to or whatever. And so for me, a really important part of my artist identity is like authenticity and vulnerability, and kind of being like, here I am, I've been through this, here's how I felt, and I hope that you can connect with that in some way and feel seen by that. I've written plenty of songs that are fine. are good. But when I sing them, I don't feel this like I don't feel like it's going to connect with people in the way that I would like to. Um, that makes
It
sense.
it does. It feels like that's a litmus test that you've kind of like set for yourself of like,
Mhm.
here's some of the non-negotiables that I want to have in the song. And when I sing it, I hear people say like sometimes I have to enjoy singing. I have to feel like this is something I want to do again and again and again and be okay explaining about the song too and talking
Mhm.
about it. So I guess for everyone, it's a different metric of what is
Yeah.
considered, but they have to be able to answer that. It can't be like this, I don't know, like, I just thought it was cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I think um it depends. Like, I think if you're doing stuff where you're trying to sell your songs or like
Mhm.
sync or things like that, sometimes just a cool song is great. But yeah, if you're working on um branding and artist identity, it's really important to across the board like try to have um your set of rules that you have for, not rules, but like guidelines that you have for yourself. And it's like, to me, it's about integrity within yourself more than anything.
If you were to just take a wild stab in the dark, which is a violent metaphor, but it's like if you could take a stab in the dark, why do you think people, especially songwriters, struggle with this? Like they're always overthinking. And I feel like sometimes when you ask them some of those specific things about genre, what you want someone to feel, why you wrote, they have such trouble answering some of those questions.
Hmm. Well, I think that it's really challenging because we're making art. We're putting ourselves into it, however that looks. It's so vulnerable. It's terrifying.
Mhm.
It's yeah, it's just terrifying. And so I think that there's that. And so you when you like approach someone with your art, you're like, "Please, I hope you like it." It's so scary. It's like a kid and you show someone you like picked them a flower and you just really hope that they like the flower,
Yeah.
that they're receiving what you're trying to give. Um so there's that part of it. And then it's like also do you like it? I think it's the we're making art, we're hoping to share it with people. We want them to like it. But how much of like does this person like my song are we leaning on versus do I like this song? You know what I
Mm.
mean? And both are important because if you just make art completely for yourself, then you just keep it for yourself. You write at home, you know what I mean? Like if you're choosing to put things out, other people are going to hear it. Like that's, obvious. Um but I think that it still should be my opinion, I think this is different for everyone, but, like, it should still be the majority, like, do I like it? And I think that my point in this is people get so caught up in whether other people are going to like it and receive it in the way that they want it to be received, that they get lost. They lose the part of, like, do I like it? And does this sound good to me more than anything?
What I like about that is, as you said, you're not leaning one or the other. You realize the relevance of both, especially for your
Mhm,
goal. a- And you realize that you can't really have one without the other. Because if it's all
mhm,
like, I just love it, cool. And you're right, play your songs for yourself. Like
mhm.
you can enjoy them, and that is the metric, and that's enough. If you go so heavy, I'm worried about what everyone thinks, that's where it's like, I feel like you won't get the best song because you're trying to
Mhm.
please so many, it pleases
Yeah.
no one. And it ends up just
Mhm.
being like a hollow shell. And this kind
Yes.
of balance between both.
Mhm.
Also, you've got to write a lot to also understand that balance. If you write
Oh,
very
for sure.
little, you're not going to find that balance so quickly or
Oh,
expect a
yeah,
song.
100%.
How important are, I guess, in this context, are reps and repetition and writing and being consistent with your writing and leveling up your writing matter?
I think it's so important. Um I started writing 15 years ago, and my songs were so important to me, and they still are. But it was this, I had this like extreme attachment to them. And, so I had like 20 songs and I was like, these are me. This is all that I am, and so any critique that I got, I was like devastated, and
Yeah.
also took that as me being a bad songwriter, not that one thing that I did in one song could use improvement, Um, but as I've written and written and written, and the songs that almost all of the songs that I wrote when I first started writing, I don't sing anymore. They don't even really exist anymore, other than maybe on like a phone camera or something. So, um, I think just the time and the volume of songs has helped me to be less attached to them, um, and improve because I'm like, well, this isn't my favorite song, but I can just write another one and maybe I will like that one more. Also, just like over time, you connect with things differently.
I think what you said, like the volume of writing more, and as you write, you kind of get to know yourself a little bit better and how you're conveying what you want to say. You're going to find better
Mhm.
ways to say it. The first
Yeah.
20, as you said, yeah, it is that kind of like special, like, don't touch these. And
Mhm.
anyone that tries to go like, hey, have you thought about it? It is a dig. And it's interesting sometimes people don't get past that like level of songwriting.
Yeah.
It's
That's
very,
right.
very like guarded. They're holding on to them. Yet, if they were to just like listen to the critique, listen to the feedback, and let those 20 go, ultimately what they want, better songs, better way, better skills are on the other side of that. But it's interesting
Mhm.
how many never get past that threshold
Yeah.
because they're so scared and they see it as a personal attack.
Yeah. I think it it's the same as a lot of parts of life, or just it's the same as learning anything, where when you start, it feels big and
Hmm.
it feels like, um, really like a huge kind of mountain to approach, and you wanna be like, if you're exercising and you're just exercising for the first time, like, I feel like you, it's just huge and it's hard and it's a lot. And you want to be good with your technique and you want to like do it in this like, very optimal way so that you get the results you want and all of that. But the the thing is just showing up and doing it, and then eventually you'll learn, you know? So I think with songwriting it's the exact same way. Like you got to show up, you got to do it, and you can't like overanalyze it so much that you don't move forward.
Is it maybe to the mystique we put on, especially creativity and songwriting, that people
Mhm.
think it's magical and it
Mhm.
just happens and either you got it or you don't. And it's just like, I wrote 2 songs and it just didn't really happen. Guess I
Mhm.
wasn't meant to. And it's like, no, of course not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Okay, so when it comes to we've talked about the songwriting aspect. Now, how does that influence like literally every other facet of the brand identity and like your artist identity and whether it be bio, you said even I didn't even think of some of these things. I was like, oh, I guess dressing, like, what you do and what you post and what you share and how you share it. How do you wrap your mind and how does someone wrap their mind around that?
Yeah, it's so big. I think first of all, for a very long time, I was just really irritated with all of it. I was like resistant to it. I
Yeah.
was like, I just make music, and if people like my songs, they do. And I think that's true to some extent. I think I make like kind of Americana indie music, so there's a certain like a certain level of like relaxed.
Hmm.
That's not how I meant to say that, but you know what I mean? Like, that you get to there's a casualness to Americana indie sort of music that there's an advantage to. Like, if you're making pop music, it's a little more, done up or whatever. But anyway, I was very resistant to it for a long time, um, and when I was making this EP, I was like, I want to really try to like connect with people and not be this person who's like, I am too like like I don't want to do that, you know, like too cool for school or whatever. And um anyway, the best way that I can describe it is like if you're going in for a job interview and you wear pajamas versus if you're going in for a job interview and you wear like a suit, right? Um Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're judging people all of the time, not as in like being mean judging, but like we see someone, we evaluate what they're wearing, how tall they are, what their face looks like, and we make assumptions according to our experiences that we've had in the past and all of these things. And then we're like, this person is probably this way. This person comes from money, or this person like probably works out like manual labor kind of thing, or like there's all those things. And that's just part of being human. That's how we survive, you know? Uh, so I think that at some point I was like, it's silly for me to assume that everyone's just going to make an exception for me, that people are going to see me and just get it. They're not. It's, you know, and they're not like, it's the same thing with songwriting. Like you hope that people get something from it, but they're not going to like know exactly what you meant when you were writing the song. Like
I'm so
the
glad you
experience
said
of
that, because I feel there's so many people that think they're the exception. They're the exception to the rule. And it's when you see that and you're like, but you're not. It doesn't mean you're any less, but it's like
Yes.
what you described, those are kind of the defaults of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think as far as being like kind of special and like when you start writing music,
Yeah.
you're like, I have this talent, and you do. Um but I think especially in I think especially in the US, we have been taught that we have to be the one who has like the American dream. Like we do it. You know, we get out of whatever we were raised in or whatever, or we're so special, we made it to this college, or like we, you know, were successful and we were a musician who like, you know, played Red Rocks or something like that, right? And it's like,
Do you know anyone that played Red Rocks by chance?
I
I don't know.
do.
I was like, that was just like, that's so funny. It's because Alden was on here and I just, you guys are married. And it's just so funny that you're just like, you know, think you're so special to play Red Rocks, you know.
I'm just talking about him. But I think that it's important to like recognize that we all are just different.
Yeah.
And not better or worse, just different. And so yeah, I think in the artist identity part of that, recognizing that people are going to perceive you in however they do, and you adjusting how you dress or the social media or like, you know, just the visual aspects of those things is going to affect how people perceive you and then how they receive the music. It's the same way as like if you're gonna write a song, you can choose to do like country instrumentation or you can choose to do pop instrumentation, and that's going to affect how people are receiving the song. So just across the board, like you have some control over how people are receiving your art, and it's like how do you want to kind of guide them into connecting with it.
I like
in
that
way.
idea that it's more guiding them. It's like, especially too, I would imagine you want to guide the right audience, that you want to cultivate the right audience. Like you don't want, I would imagine, like a whole bunch of frat bros to be like, oh, this is really cool. And you're just like, no, this is not what I wanted. Abort, abort. And it's like, if you want tomatoes, then plant tomatoes, you know, plant this in your garden to get this. If you want this, you're going to have to plant this. If you want to attract an audience that is warm, receptive, and they tend to generally look like this, they're kind of cultivate, or they're going towards this, they're willing to support these sort of things. This is what I also have to make sure it's clear and visible to them.
Yeah.
So that there's not a mixed message and not like, that's interesting. Because, you know, when people say, well, music's for everyone, I'm like, is it everyone? Like everyone?
Yeah.
Because it seems like that's an impossible standard
Hmm.
for everyone. You
Yeah.
can't.
Just like you can't be friends with everyone, you know?
Mm,
Like, which is unfortunate, but that's just part of being alive is like some
hmm
people you vibe with and some people you don't. And some people are going to like your music and some people are going to feel neutral about it. Some people aren't going to like it, you know? And that's just how it's going to be.
Hey, it's Mike. I'm jumping in the middle of this episode to invite you to the Songwriter Reset. Regardless if you've been writing for maybe just a few years or you've been writing your entire life, we always need to develop new skills and evaluate our process, especially if you want to go higher and higher up when it comes to songwriting. The reset is all about building new skills, evaluating your process so you can see the holes, what needs fixed. Over the course of a weekend, you're going to get live coaching with me. That's right, live coaching with me. Now, spots are limited, so if you're serious about this and you're ready to join, just click the link below or just scan the QR code right next to me. And maybe that's just why some don't cross that territory ever because they're just
It's hard.
they want everyone to like it is. They just they
Yeah.
don't like the idea of somebody bad mouthing them online or like writing a comment. That's dumb. You suck. This song's stupid. You look ugly, just all the things that they imagine. But at the same time, there's on the other side of
Hmm.
that, a whole bunch of people that are so receptive. They're so excited because they're looking for new music. They're looking for
Yeah.
someone that you can share that specific thing and it relates to them. It connects with them. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
there are some things that are on the negative side, but there's a whole host of really good things
Yeah,
on the other
absolutely.
side.
I think also, at least for me, I do want everyone to like me and I do want to connect with everyone. So I don't think it's necessarily abnormal to want that. I think the difference or the thing that I've been coming to in the last several years is just I want that. That's not realistic. And I need to not behave as though I can make that work.
Mm.
You know, it's like I'm going to try to connect with the people um, who want to connect with me. And then, and that's that, like you just try your best and you'll find kind of the right place to be in.
There has to be some sort in that, at least that positioning that you described right there, there has to be some sort of confidence too in the thing that you're creating.
Hmm.
That has to prop you up, that you can venture into that territory of I'd love everyone to love me and
Hmm.
like my songs. And I
Yeah.
acknowledge there's going to be a swath of people that just don't get it. And there's
Hmm.
going to be a swath of people that love it and are
Yeah.
excited. And I have to be okay with that. It's out of my control.
Yeah. Just very challenging, but
And
very possible.
it's possible and it is challenging because I imagine how do you deal with random I'm not saying you have gotten this, but like how do you randomly when it does come across stuff that's just dumb, like, comments or things that are just irrelevant, that have no place, no reflection of your music. It's just like what we say are trolls that just randomly scroll everything everywhere and
Yeah.
just spew shit for the sake of they've got nothing else better to do. And at the heart of it, they're just not happy.
Hmm. Um, I think I'm trying to think of stuff that's happened recently. I feel like I had someone the other day listen to one of my songs off my record and they were like, this song's fine, but you need to learn how to sing. And I had a moment where I was like, do I? Because I do, I always want to be receptive to what people have to say. I want to grow, you know? Um, but so I sat with it for a little bit and it kind of made me sad. And then I was like, no. I honestly, I listened back to the song and I was like, no, like I haven't been singing for again, like 15 years. And I have been surrounded by musicians who are talented, who have given me advice about my voice. And, I was like, that's just not true. I think that what is true is I sing a little weird, and some people interpret that as needing to be technically, like, to learn how to sing technically, which I can, you know what I mean? So it's this
Yeah.
sort of like, I think the way I processed that specifically was just like, they have this expectation of how voices should sound. Like, I sing with a lot of vibrato. Vibrato is not something that people necessarily love. So
Uh-huh.
just stuff like that. Like, they have this expectation. I don't meet it, but that doesn't mean I'm bad, sort of, you know?
And I find that people that leave comments, there's never a picture of them. It's
Yeah.
always like an object, and
It's
then
like
it's something.
anonymous.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
anonymous, or it's like, Mr. Jingle Jangle 27. It's never like
Mhm.
a real name. And it's
Yes.
never, because number one, that signals to me they're not comfortable to show their face.
Mhm.
It's but it's so, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think people assume that people that are doing this don't like, that all of it, that they are just like, it rolls off my shoulder. But the idea of like,
Mhm.
you sat with it and you're like, it made me sad.
Mhm.
And then it was like, but then you came to that, I think the realization from sitting from that and thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute, this has no validity whatsoever.
Mhm.
This is not true.
Yeah.
Uh, but it just seems like, yes, it's a great time to make our music more accessible than ever. And it's also where we are also vulnerable to attack basically on all sides of.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you do put yourself out there. And that's the
Mhm.
price of finding the people that connect with you. You also find the people that are randomly just shitheads too.
Mhm.
And then there are the people that just genuinely don't connect, but they're not mean. It's just not their thing.
Mhm.
That's okay
Yeah.
too. In fact, that's more like, oh, that's awesome. But yeah, then there's that swath of, God, has nobody ever given you a hug? Like no one's in your entire life, that they just
Totally.
suck. But that's what many people avoid ever being present within art, writing, creating. They make up a swath of all these other excuses. Oh, once I build up these skills, once I get my home studio together, once I take this other course, once I do this other thing. But really, it's never the thing. It just seems like for everything that we could dismantle and say, you don't need that, they'll put up the next wall, because it's just constantly trying to barricade themselves and protect them from
Yeah.
literally anything
Mhm.
that could hurt them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I think that's natural.
Yeah.
Or at least in my experience, like, I the reason why I didn't put out an EP for many, many years was because I was like, I don't have the money.
Mhm.
And that was my thing, where I was like, I just can't afford
Mm.
it. Um, and then one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out. And I did. I worked and I worked and I worked, and I did a Kickstarter and I did all these things and it happened. And I think also just doing things you think you can't do and accomplishing them is a way to get yourself to keep doing things that you think you can't do, because you're like, "Oh, I'm capable of that. So I can be capable of something else," you know?
That no, no, no. This is so good, because I recorded a podcast episode yesterday, and with the producer here in Nashville, and she was saying, it's funny, like if I thought about it, producing, like in the grand scheme of things, it was so overwhelming. I just needed to start doing it. And it's funny that you
Mhm.
just mentioned, for years you were like, I just don't have money. You were like, I'm just going to do it. It's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. How?
Mhm.
I have no idea. I'm
Yeah.
going to figure it out. It's just the commitment of figuring it out and the process of starting, which is
Yeah.
so important, because no, you don't know the information, because you have never done this before. This is brand new territory. You have to figure it out. You're going to figure it out. Could there be some missteps? Yeah. Could you learn from those missteps? Absolutely. Can you find other ways that you could fund this? Yes. But how do you need to start? Well, I have to start by just like doing it. It can
Yeah.
no longer be a hypothetical or a
Mm-hmm.
one-day thing. And that's
Yeah,
another aspect that I think songwriters come up with, which is
for sure.
it's always one day I will. When
Mm-hmm.
things quiet down, when money becomes okay, when things are, and I'm like, man, if I made every decision based off of that, I would have zero career right now.
Yeah.
I'd have, I'd still
Mm-hmm.
be doing the exact same thing that I was doing when I was thinking about it. And I
Yeah.
wasn't even happy when I was with that because I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm. I think I also had this kind of fear of how stressful it was going to be. I was
Mm.
like, oh my God, it's going to be so stressful. It's going to be so much work. And then around the same time where I was like, I'm just going to do it, I was also like, I'm stressed now. I'm sitting here stressed about that I'm not doing the thing I want to do. And I was like, so if I'm going to be stressed, because I think that's my personality trait to some extent, do I want to be stressed about things that I care about, or do I want to be stressed about not doing the things that I care
Oh
about? You
shit,
know what
that's
I mean?
so good. It's just like I'm already fucking stressed. It's just like if I'm gonna stress, I might as well stress about the thing that I'm so passionate about and not
Yeah.
stressing about the stress. It's
Yeah, exactly.
but no, it is true. People are like, well, I'm afraid if I do this, I'm gonna be very uncomfortable. But most of them are already uncomfortable with the things that they're doing
Hmm.
because it's not satisfying. It's not the thing they want to do. And yet they'll just put up another wall. And it's really disheartening or it's sad to see someone that always, that story, oh, they had such potential.
Yeah.
They could have XYZ. They could have done this. They could have done that. And people are like, I wonder why. And it's like, oh, it's because they weren't willing to be uncomfortable and
Hmm.
do all these things that you're
Yeah.
describing that are, I get why people just don't become artists because there's so much that's involved that is vulnerable, that is stretching. But at the same time, you're like, hey, if I'm going to be stressed, I'm going to stress about this thing that I will die on that hill because I love it that much. And I would
Hmm.
rather do that than be on this hill of maybe one day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when it comes to, can we talk about genre? Because I think this is another thing that I see kind of wishy-washiness on people. When I
Okay.
see someone, I'm like, hey, what do you sound like? And they're like, well, it's hard to describe my sound.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guarantee it's not. Why do
Yeah.
we just dance around this? Why can't we just say what we are? Because it gives such clarity to me on like, oh, awesome. Or like, because I think there's a huge difference between like Swedish death metal, pop, bedroom pop. Like, why can't we just define a genre? Why is that not? Why can't we do that?
I think it's the same kind of thing as um the being so attached to your songs, sort of
Mhm.
thinking that you're, so special in a way. Um I think that the inability to kind of put yourself into this category is just another way of kind of thinking that you're special. And I don't say that as like I for years was like I don't have a genre, so I've done that. And I
Mhm.
think I when I made this record, I pitched it to a bunch of people like to playlists and stuff.
Mhm.
And the question I asked was like what genre?
Mhm.
Everyone was like Americana. And I was like no, but then I was listening to a lot of music at the time and going through the playlist that I was pitching to and all these things. And um, I realized that I don't necessarily sound like every Americana artist that are on those playlists. I sound very different from all of the indie artists or all. So it's like I have a little bit of an indie thing happening, but I lean way more Americana. And it's like if you're listening to all of this music and putting yourself with those songs, where are you actually fitting? Because you're gonna fit more into something than you are into all of these other things. And
Okay.
frankly, at this point, music is so like there's so much of it and so many genres, and people have been making music for so long that like everybody's gonna pull from other genres into their current genre. That's just how music evolves. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's really tied into the artist identity part of it. Like, how are people who like your style of music going to find it if you're not willing to say that that's the style of music that it is? Because if I pitch my songs to like rock, because I play with a 4-piece band, it's rockier than it is folkier. But rock listeners don't like my music. They might, but like, as far as like generalization, someone who loves to listen to Queen is not going to listen to my music and be like, absolutely yes.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did. It leans again to, I want to be everything for everyone. And you're nothing to everyone then. It's just like, there's no way that can happen. And this is where you do have to sit with those questions, because you are going to get asked that. And as you said, like if you're going to pitch 2 playlists, and this is the thing that happens now that's so different. It's no longer like, come to my show and I'll sell you my CD and that's great. It's like, no, how are people finding you? It's going to be through a playlist. It's going to be, and the more you can do to help those playlists be like, are you the right fit? Are you not? Like, no, we won't put you in the Nickelback playlist. We will, however, put you into this. Oh, you're more Nickel Creek, less Nickelback. It's just like, which one of them are you? It's so different, but it's helpful because you're going to, especially if you're someone that's like, I want to get my music out there. I want to get it in front of as many people as possible. The more you can answer those questions, it may seem limiting, or it may seem like you want to be the exception, but you're not. You're actually helping discover your audience.
Yes.
And then as someone, or maybe this is for the person that's just starting on this path, how do you connect with them beyond just, putting out music? What are ways that an artist can look to stay in, build and facilitate a possible fan base and have it grow? Because that seems like sometimes music is the fun part, and then we get into all this like nuts and bolts of how do we actually facilitate building was essentially almost like a small community for your music.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is playing shows is a very valuable way to connect with people. Just because people are present at shows and they're ready to like receive something. When people are scrolling through their social media, they're still ready to receive in a way, but it's like if someone is physically at a show, it's way easier to like engage with them. So playing shows I think is really important. And then like interacting with other artists, so that you can like tap into what they're doing in their community that they have. So like physically just being out, like playing shows and doing those things is important. And then I think social media is important. That's another thing that I really have struggled with, and it still gives me so much anxiety. But I think social media is important for people you've already connected with, so that they know that you're still doing things and they have that reminder. And then like also messaging with people or like posting stories. You don't have to like DM people you don't know all the time or anything, but just like having these sources of like connection with people is really important for them, but also for you. I think it's valuable to be like, oh, these people believe in me and they want to listen to my music.
It kind of fuels a little bit of what you're doing so that you power through, because if people are responding and they're receptive, they're enjoying it, and you're kind of feeding yourself that a little bit.
Yes.
Whenever you come up against someone that is going to be like, this sucks. It's like, I thought this was it. You kind of like, maybe it maybe this is true, maybe it's not, but I feel like that rolls off a little bit quicker than when you're just starting, because
It does. It
you
definitely
kind of have a
does.
little bit
I
more.
think something else I've
Yeah.
done is, sorry,
No, you're
I
fine.
lost you.
You're good.
Okay. What was I gonna say? I sometimes will write those things down. Like if someone says something nice to me or you know, like my Kickstarter was successful or things like that. I keep them written down and then I have a little box of like all of my lanyards from playing festivals, from posters from cool shows. Um just as a way like when I feel down of having like I've done this. Like I put out an EP. You know, I've written these songs. This person bought merch from me and said that this song reminded me of their mom and like it really helped them or stuff like that. I think is it's valuable in the moment and it's also valuable to remember that you've had this impact like across the board. Um and then as far as like back to like how to connect with people, I think email lists are really important, especially because in social media it's so saturated. And it depends on the person, whether they're gonna like receive an email in a way that's um like connecting in the way that you want. But like email lists are great or like Patreons are awesome. Subscription services, things like that, like where if someone's giving you money, even if it's $1, they are like intentionally wanting to continue to connect with what you're making or with whatever, you know? And so it's like just the fact that they're giving you any money means that they're more likely to want to connect with you like in the future. Um, so I think those are the top ones that I can think of at the moment.
I want to touch on two things. So I want to talk about the Kickstarter. Can you
Mm.
can you walk me through, because I think people hear about these things like, oh, I started this craft. How do you go about, thinking about, yes, the goal is to make money. Like I want to make money from this. But
Yeah.
how do you think about like the different tiers? And for people that don't understand Kickstarter, it's like where people can donate, but they can buy advanced, like different tiers of, cool, this version gets you a download, of the
Mhm.
EP. This one's going to get you the vinyl. This one's going to get you, how do you decide, and how do you then communicate that to everyone, that I have a Kickstarter, that doesn't feel like you're just yelling into a void of
Mhm.
like, fund my thing, please?
Yeah, um gosh, the Kickstarter it was a big growth moment for me, I think, because people had been telling me to crowdfund for years because I was always like, I don't have the money. And then they were like, crowdfund. And I was like, no, Um, and so finally I was like, I'd saved up a lot of money myself, but I had reached a point where I was like, I can get halfway to my goal, but I can't without help, I can't reach the rest. So anyway, I um went and like stalked a bunch of people on Kickstarter to see like especially musicians like what they had done. Um to see like what had worked and what hadn't. And so the packages I did were pretty simple. I think I'm probably going to do a pre-sale for the next record instead of a Kickstarter and I'll do more stuff. But anyway, I just did basic stuff. Like I did a t-shirt that was special to the Kickstarter. I did vinyl and ideally I would do a special vinyl again, but at the time, like financially it didn't line up. And then I did like handwritten lyrics. I did a songwriting session. So like where I could, songwrite with someone or teach them how to write a song or whatever.
Yeah.
I did a cover song. So like somebody could pay for me to send them a video of me singing a cover of their choice. I also did house shows. And that was really valuable because I think I did $1,000 for a house show or something, which is on the lower side, actually, I'm realizing. But that helped me a lot to get to my goal. Um, and I think that was most of the rewards that I did. Yeah. And then as far as promoting goes, um, I post every single day on social media. Uh, and I was just posting videos of me. I was in the studio at one point, like while I was doing the Kickstarter. So I was posting, here's what we're doing right now, recording the record. But then also there were videos of me singing live. I
Hmm.
did acoustic videos. I did videos of just me talking to the camera, um, and asking people to share it. Um, I really was like, hey, this is important to me. Can you send this to a friend? Kind of thing, which was so embarrassing and terrifying and like very hard to get yourself to do. But I think the like there's this thing that happens in community where people are like, I want to help this person, you know? Like I think we want to help each other. We want to support each other. And I'm learning every single day within doing music that like you just have to be like, I want to do this thing. And if you can help, that would be awesome. And you would be so surprised at how many people are like, oh my God, like absolutely. Let me see what I can do to like help. And also, people are adults and they can say no and they can do what they want. So it's not like you're like forcing anyone to do anything. They don't have to share your post. You know what I mean? Um,
But I think to
but
your
yeah.
point, it's really surprising when you actually ask how many people will be like, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, because we think everyone's going to say no, that
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to reject us, because that comes back to insecurity. No one's going to say yes. It's going to fail miserably. It's going to be the worst thing ever. And it's just like, we totally go Eeyore, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like the worst thing ever. Nothing's going to happen. But it's like quite the opposite. People are willing to share. They want to
Yeah.
get the word. And if they can help more and more, they will.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess the last question that I want to get into that you touched on. So when it comes to shows, how do you set up a show that is beneficial to you and beneficial to the venue? Because I feel like that also gets into this whole, you don't want to play a room for no one, but there are times where you have to slowly build things before you can start to fill a room. And how do you even go about, like, especially now, getting people to come to a show, care about a show, and be like, hey, I'm playing a show?
Mm-hmm. There's so many layers to it. I think that having a lineup, as in like other artists on the show that that have a following is a good place to start. Um, but often I feel like, especially in my situation, like you're usually interacting with people who are on the same, like who have a similar draw to you, you know? So that's not always possible. But I think I like putting bands together who are willing to try is important. Like, are you gonna post about this? Are you gonna put up like flyers or, you know, and there's like a certain amount of effort that some people go to that others don't, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to post every day about it, but just trying to connect with people who are also wanting to like um bring people to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that I did for a long time that was self-sabotaging is I was really embarrassed about asking people to come to my shows. I felt guilty. I was always like, I'm so sorry, but I have a show on Friday. And like, you don't have to come. Don't come. Actually, please don't come. Like, um, and then people would show up and I'd feel guilty that they came. I was like, oh my God, like they took time out of their life to come and see me, you know? And and then I would feel guilty that I didn't get to like talk to them enough or like all these things. And I think in the last couple of years again, I've been like, people want to come to my show. They are adults. They would not come if they don't want to. So I think like a huge change for me has been being like, come to my show. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. Like, and confidently just not promising, but like being enthusiastic about the music that you're making.
Yeah.
People pick up on that. People aren't going to come to your party if if you're like, it's going to be like a lame party. You don't have to come, you know, like it'll probably be super awkward. Like you're like, oh my God, my birthday's happening and I'm going to have cake. And so I think just like talking about things that way to other people is like a night and day difference of whether people are showing up to my shows, and also like if they're excited. Like it can be an event for people. Like, oh my God, on Saturday night we're gonna go see the show. That's gonna be so fun. So yeah, I think really more than anything, it's like an energy thing. Like, are you gonna post about it? Are you gonna tell your friends? Are you gonna like, reach out to a radio station and be like, I have a show in your town. Can you tell people about it? Like, just telling people about it is really like the big thing when you're starting, especially.
It feels like there are many different ways that you can communicate there's a show, and you kind of have to do a couple of them. You can't just rely on one. You have to, kind of what you said, like, cool, independent radio. Absolutely. Is it public radio? What is the public radio station that might be more attuned to your genre, your style? That's amazing. Are there some zines? Are there some, in-town magazines that you can reach out to? Are there blogs? You kind of have to do your due diligence and research to kind of get there, because you said, make it an event, make it fun, and not like you get up there and you're like, God, no one's here. Let's just play a couple songs and then leave. Like, it just, if you make it seem miserable, no one's going to want to come.
Yeah.
And no one will want, and those that did won't want to come back.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that also just like, I love playing shows. It's probably one of my favorite parts of like being an artist. I love playing shows, but I've played to no one a handful of times, probably more than a handful of times. And I think learning to enjoy it because you are playing music and you love doing that is really valuable, because if there is one person, they're going to tell their friend, and then next time you'll have two people at the show, kind of energy. And then I had another thought about
I want to touch on that really quick.
Yeah.
Is that because when people hear that, they do get disheartened? Only one person was here, but you were immediately like, no, if you come back, then two people are going to be there, because that one person is going to have they're going to be like, they were so good and they played with and I talked to them afterwards. They were so nice and it was just great. More people need to know about them. Do you also have to have like a big picture kind of mindset or idea in your head of long-term what you want to see happen? I feel if you have a short-term mindset, it's going to seem like that was the most devastating, worst thing that could happen. But how you described it, it was somebody that was clearly thinking about bigger things and long-term. They're not thinking in just like short-term, who's going to be there.
I think eventually when you become like a really big artist, you start connecting with people several degrees away from where you're existing, as in like someone finds you on the radio that lives on the other side of the world, but when you're starting and you're kind of doing the grassroots thing, one person really matters so much. And so I think it's like a little arrogant to be like fresh. You can have your feelings, but it's a little arrogant to be like, there's only one person in the crowd, this isn't even worth doing. Because it's like, there's one person in the crowd who's there to listen to your music. Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's one person who bought your record, and like, that is one person and they matter. Like, so I think that this expectation to have a ton of people and like all of that, that's awesome. But like, each individual person who is connecting with your art is very important. So I think keeping that in mind is valuable.